Here's the 2-point perspective that we're going to do. It's exercise 3 on page 51. And this is I say the final version. I've still got all my construction lines in there. But this is the look you're going to finish with. Your starting point, I'll go and tell you now, I'll tell you again later. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's going to be 7 inches over. Okay, and we'll draw a vertical line. Okay, and then up 1, 2, 3, 4 inches up, build a horizontal line. That's going to be the front corner here. The vanishing points, left and right vanishing points, are going to be 1 inch in from the outside edge of the paper here, and 4 inches up. I'll go ahead and give those to you. And we're going to do this double-sized. So we'll take the measurements from the textbook, multiply them times 2, and then we'll multiply them times 0.7 for our depth. But it's going to be, 2-to-1 scale. Now, how does this 2-point perspective differ? You got a lot of variables. You have, I can't remember if the book showed them. No, the book doesn't really talk about it much in this case because we're just doing some sketches. But you've got your viewing plane, your stationary point, your vanishing points. There's a pretty complicated process to set up for a true 2-point perspective. And you got a lot of variables. Okay, the distance the vanishing points are out to the sides, the distance up they are, and then the location of the station point, which our sketch doesn't even take that into account. So I got a couple of variations here that I want to show you. Now remember this one, we got 4 inches up and then 4 inches up here, okay? Here's another variation in which I only did 3 inches up from the bottom, which changed my viewing angle that I've got going. I still did 4 inches up here. Here's one that I only did 3 inches up, so it lowers the angle that I'm viewing. Flip back to the original one there. You can't see much of a difference, but in this one you can see the top surface of the rear there. Here you can't see the top surface back there. Here's another one. I pushed this one way down on my paper just so I could get some to try some things out, because I did this one the traditional way of doing a perspective. Pull down just a little bit here. And the way that they work, no, you can't see that. Let me zoom out. I had my vanishing points down kind of low, here to the side. My station point, I think I was using right here. That's kind of where your eyeball would be if you were looking at this object. And you draw a top view at a 30-degree angle, okay, cornered on your picture plane line. That's not picture plane, but that line. You draw your top view at a 30-degree angle, and you project these down as to what would be your station point, which was here. So I lined them up to here. Where they cross this line, then you come straight down. That gives you your length and your depth going to the side. It's a rather complicated process. For what we're going to be doing here today, once again, 0.7 of my depth works out fine. Okay. And it's going to get a little complicated up here. I'm not going to freak too much about there as long as you got something kind of close to that. So I've given you the layouts here. 3 inches up, 7 inches over. That's going to be my starting point. The vanishing point is another 4 inches up from that line. And so from here, let's lay out my first 2 lines here to the vanishing points, and my little triangle is not long enough over there. Okay, so now let's see, the height of this, yeah, let's do the height. The height is 5 squares tall, which is going to be 10 squares, because I'm doing it, 2 times scale. Well, 10 squares in the book. A square in the book is 1/4 of an inch. So I've got 4, 8, so that'd be 2.5 inches. So there's my height, my overall height. I forgot to zoom my camera back down. Let me finish this line and I'll pull it back down. Okay. So that gives me the height of my front corner. Total height, overall height. Now, let's go my depth here. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 5 squares deep, which would be 10, but now times 0.7. So, which would be, 7 1/4-inch squares, but we're measuring an angle, so that won't work. So 10 squares at 1/4 inch is 2.5 inches times 0.7 gives me 1 3/4 inches deep. So I want to measure that one. Put a mark, and I can go ahead and put in a vertical line. There. That is how deep my object is. Okay, so let's go to the length across the front. I think it's 13 squares long, which is 3 1/4 inch times 0.7, 2 1/4 inch. Something's wrong. That's not right. 13 times 1/4 of an inch. I forgot to multiply times 2. 6.5 inches times 0.7, 4 9/16. Okay, so there's my overall length for my object. Okay, so now, well, let's go ahead and do the angle here in the front. I'll show you that. So this angle clip right here, we can measure the distance up the corner there and just put that in. And so it was 4 squares, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 squares tall, which would be 8 squares, which is 2 inches. It's a height measurement, so we don't have to modify it by the 0.7. So I'll do a vanishing point there, and 1 to the right. Okay, so I'll go ahead and darken a couple of these. You don't have to darken until you're at the end, unless it helps you visualize the stuff. And some of this I won't darken those in until they just come across. Okay. So I'm going to work on this top edge up here. And so that's 4 squares over 1 3/8. And I'm going to measure these on the bottom because they're both the same. And you want to kind of, if you measure 1 3/8 down this line and you measure 1 3/8 here, they're going to be different because you're at an angle. So I'm kind of going to pick one and go with it. And I know it's the same coming from the back. Okay, so I can go ahead and project